Why do we actually light a fire on Lag BaOmer? Anybody have an idea? Why fire? Why can't we have a barbecue? Why we have barbecues, but we don't. That's not the Chag. Why do we light a fire? Why do we light a bonfire? The kids in Israel collect wood for a couple of weeks. All over Yerushalayim, all over Netanya, they collect little pieces of wood from garbage pails, from the woods, to collect it, to burn the whole thing in one day. I remember when I was a kid, we used to love it. Whole night, the fire is lighting, we put some potatoes on there. It's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we don't have that in America, but nonetheless, most of you, I'm assuming, realize that there is a fire connected to this Chag. Question is, why? Does anybody know the story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai going into the cave? Everybody heard of the story? Gemara Masechet Shabbat says that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was sitting and talking to a couple of other Tanaim, a couple of the other Gdolei Ador. And they had a conversation. Now, of course, Chachamim always talk about Divrei Torah. They don't talk about the mundane. They don't talk about, what do you think of sports? What do you think of this LeBron James's new contract? What do you think of the stock market? That's not the conversations they have. They have things that they connect to the Torah Kedusha. But this conversation was slightly different because one of the Chachamim says that, Rabbi Yehuda says that, look at all of the buildings that the Romans built. Look at all these buildings they built, the bathhouses they built, the toll roads they built. Wow, this is amazing that they did it. This is the will of Hashem. This is the will of Hashem. If Hashem let them build it, this is the will of Hashem, right? Rabbi Yossi didn't say anything, but Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai went the exact opposite direction. He said, no, absolutely not. These Romans are Reshaim. These Romans are wicked. These Romans are idol worshippers. And the only reason why they built what they built is not to help the people, but rather to help themselves. They built the bridges in order to collect more tolls. They built the markets in order to fool more people, in order to sell them more stuff they don't need. They built the bathhouses in order to promote more promiscuity and prostitution. They built it for their own needs. They didn't build it for the people. So now, at that time, there was a young man that was sitting next to them, a convert, was sitting next to them that didn't know right or left. But he overheard the conversation. He was excited about listening to a conversation of three of the biggest rabbis in the world. And he started telling, he told some of his family members and his friends, not realizing that this is not a conversation you spread to other people, because you're talking about the Malchut, talking about the government. So now, after he told one person told two people went three people, next thing you know, he got to the government. The Caesar heard this, he said, what? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said that we did this for ourselves, he's talking against us, put a bounty on his head, death penalty. Death penalty, kill him. Whoever catches him first, death penalty, you get a reward for it. This also teaches us, by the way, as a side note, if you ever want something to be a secret, don't tell anyone. Literally, anyone. As soon as you tell your secret to one person, it is no longer a secret, and it's only a matter of time before the exact person that you don't want knowing the secret will find out. So now Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai heard that there's a gzerah, there's a decree on his head and on his son. So they ran away and they went to hide in a cave. Now Hashem obviously protects the tzaddikim, so he made a few miracles happen. As soon as they got to the cave, they didn't have enough time to pack bags and bring stuff with them. They just ran away. So they didn't have any food, they didn't have any clothes, they didn't have anything. They just got there. Now, what are we going to do for food? Hashem miraculously makes a tree, a carob tree, grow out of the ground, completely with the fruits. Now, anyone that knows about carob trees, the Gemara says it takes 70 years. 70 years for a carob tree to actually get to a point of bearing its fruit. This happened in 1 second. Just like in Maaseh Bereshit, just like in the beginning of the world. Second thing is, for water, Hashem created a river out of thin air, out of nothing, just a river came right next to the cave. So it allows Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son to hide and learn Torah in peace. And over there, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai learned an immense amount of Torah, and they gave a lot of kavod for the Torah to an extent that they knew that if they're going to be in this cave for a while, their clothes are going to get ruined. And since they don't have a second outfit, what they did is they made a big hole in the ground. They took off their clothes, went inside the hole, covered themselves in sand, and that way that they're covered, their privates are covered, their body is covered, and that way they can learn Torah all day, but without ruining their clothes. And anytime they had to pray, or it was Shabbat, they would come out of the hole and put their clothes on. That way the clothes would actually be long-lasting. Now, this obviously wasn't exactly the healthiest thing to do to their bodies, and later on when they came out of the cave, they had a lot of scars and bruises and damage and things of that nature, but the point being is that they knew how important it is to not only learn Torah, but also give kavod for the Torah. That's why I always tell people that if you're ever going to go to a shiur Torah, don't bother to go to the shiur Torah if you're going to play with your phone. Why? Because even if you listen to the shiur Torah, but you're actually desecrating the Torah by playing with your phone, you're making a sin at the same time that you're making a mitzvah, meaning they both go in the garbage. So you're wasting your time. So the key is that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai knew, and he's teaching us that kavod for the Torah is even more important than the actual learning of Torah. And the reason why is because if you learn Torah without having kavod, without having honor for the Torah, your Torah is considered something we're not allowed to learn. We're not allowed to learn. Why? It's a Torah that's not from Shamayim. But if your Torah has kavod, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you a healthy and beautiful Torah. That's why the Gemara in Masechet Moed Katan says that someone that's arrogant, he's not allowed to teach Torah. But if he teaches Torah, you're not allowed to listen to him. Why? Because this Torah cannot be from Shamayim. He's using his own logic. Because if he learned real Torah, he cannot be arrogant at the same time. The point being is that now after 12 years, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son, Rabbi Elazar, came out of the cave. Day and night they've been learning Torah. They got to a completely different level. They were learning Torah with angels. They were learning different secrets of the Torah that are unbelievable. Things that literally happen in heaven. When they came out, they were on such a high level when they saw people, regular religious Jews. It wasn't like today that you have to look for religious Jews. There, everybody was religious. Once in a while you saw someone that was less religious. But they saw people, religious Jews, going to work. Like a regular person is supposed to do. You know, you're going to learn, you're going to work, you're going to learn, you're going to work. You can't just learn, you can't just work. You have to do both for most people. For Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, this was unacceptable. As soon as he saw religious Jews going to work, he said, how could these people waste even a moment that they're supposed to learn Torah chasing money? And because of his kedusha, those people went on fire. They went on fire. So a bat kol, a heavenly voice, came from Shamayim and said to Rabbi Shimon, hey, what are you trying to ruin my world? They're not on your level. You are different. Go back into the cave. Hashem commanded him and his son to go back into the cave. And they had to go back into the cave, and Hashem actually lowered their kedusha by a little bit in order for them to be able to deal with the world. So what do we learn from here? We learn that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, his kedusha is fire, just like he was saying. But that's the reason why we actually light a fire on Lag BaOmer. Representation to us and a reminder for us that if we don't learn Torah, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was next to us, he'd light us on fire. That's why we light a fire. Meaning that if you're not learning Torah, and I'll answer your question in a second, if you're not learning Torah, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is screaming at you from Shammai and says, what are you here for? Why are you in this world if you don't learn Torah? Okay, you want to work? Work. No problem working. But when are you going to learn? Oh, I'll learn, maybe once or twice a month. Once or twice a month? How are you going to fulfill the Torah learning once or twice a month? Okay, I'll learn once or twice a week. How are you going to fulfill your role in the world learning once or twice a week? Can you live eating only once or twice a week? No. Just like you have to eat every day, you have to learn Torah every day. Every person, different amounts. Like I said, when I first started doing Teshuva, learning 5, 6, 10, 15 hours a day was impossible for me. So I started with 15 minutes a day. That's how I started. I made a rule for myself. Every day I'm going to learn 15 minutes. No matter what. Doesn't matter how busy I was, how big the contracts I was signing were, how many medical problems I had. Didn't make a difference. 15 minutes a day, commitment, that's what I'm going to do. Little by little, 15 minutes got to 20 minutes, then 25 minutes, and 30 minutes, and so on and so forth. But the point is that every single Jew has to make a timla Torah. You have to make time to learn Torah, and the reason why is not just because of Lag BaOmer. The opposite. It's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that if you don't learn Torah every day, you cannot be resurrected with the dead. When Mashiach comes, he won't look at you in a very good way. Gan Eden, Gehenom. If you don't learn Torah, there's nothing for you to do in Gan Eden. You have to learn Torah every day. Every day. You can learn Shurim, watch it on YouTube. You can come to a shiur. You can learn from a book. Baruch Hashem, in this generation, we have many, many ways to learn Torah. But the point being is, we have to make ourselves some time for Torah every day. Chavud, question.
In regards to when they went back in the cave, I heard that there's a shot in when they came out of the cave after the second time, after everything was burning around them. I heard that there was like a dove. They met a hunter around them, right? And there was a dove, like a bird in the sky.
Good.
And there was like a specific hidden message that was sent to them. I can't recall it, so I'm asking you if you could. Do you know exactly what that was about?
The message from the dove?
Yeah, like it wasn't necessarily specific to the
Well,
dove.
I believe, no, that's before they came out. Yes, what happened is they saw the hunter, outside of the cave, and they saw that the hunter is able to get parnasah. So he says, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is worrying for parnasah for this person, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is protecting the life of this person, needless to say, he's going to protect us. He's going to protect our parnasah, he's going to protect our life. So obviously it's time for us to leave. We don't have to be worried about the Caesar killing us. So as soon as they realized that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives special protection to tzaddikim, Eliyahu Navi showed up and said, you got the point, now it's time for you to leave. Now it's time for you guys to exit. Now it's time for you to go. But that was the first time they exited. The second time was just actually a semi-punishment to the tzaddikim, where they said, you're overly holy. Where do we learn from that? We learn that someone that's a gadol, someone that's big, someone that's significant, understands his own limitations. But someone that's even bigger than a gadol, someone that's a gadol among gdolim, even bigger, has to understand the limitations of the people. Not just his own, but everybody else. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, go, you're a gadol now. But you only understand your own limitations. And you can't stand these other people because they're not in your level. You have to go back to become even bigger. How? By understanding that they have limitations. They cannot learn Torah 24 hours a day like you. So that's why there's a Gemara in Masechet Brachot that has a debate between Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Ishmael, whether you're supposed to learn Torah 24 hours a day or not. Rabbi Ishmael says, no, you're supposed to learn and work. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, no, you're supposed to learn only. So what's the conclusion of the debate? The conclusion of the debate is, if you can learn all the times, that's what you should do. If you can't, because you don't have bitachon, you don't have confidence in Hashem is going to give you parnasah, or you simply don't have the capability to do it, then you should do a balance of work and learn. And the Rambam writes that how much should you learn versus how much you should work. As much as you work is how much you should learn. You work 8 hours a day, you should learn 8 hours a day. Alavai alenu, to learn, for most people to learn an hour a day. But the point is, that's technically what we're supposed to do.